Hi, John. So, am I still audible?
I can hear you.
I can hear you as well.
Can you see my screen changing?
Yep.
Yes.
So, welcome to the 16th Video Community of Practice meeting. I'm Pankaj Agrawal, founder of Next Software Solutions and working group leader of this community of practice. So let's review the 15th meeting last month. So in last month, we did a few things. We decided to add two additional meta information, that is screen size and the video size. Apart from that, Jason had created a ticket for discussing and clarifying the RFC 5646 for the language strings. So we got a very clean description of what it is, and we decided that we'll use it. So the string will be like EN, ES, and similar if no additional information is available. If the local dialect information is or specific dialect information is available, it will be like EN hyphen US or EN hyphen X for ES hyphen MX for Spanish Mexico in Mexico. So that is how the language strings will work for both the video language as well as the subtitle. We also decided that we'll not be using result scaled for progress. We'll be using result extensions for progress. The xAPI spec suggests not to use the scaled property, score scaled property for progress information. So we'll be using the result extension for that. So that was almost what we discussed in the last month's meeting. Between the things, Jason and I worked a bit on the vocabulary. Jason published the vocabulary on the vocab.pub. So this is not the complete list. Some of the groups are missing. Some we might want to remove. So we have to decide if we need some of these, like bookmarks, this scene activity type. So it is still a work in progress. I don't know if Jason will be joining. He said that he will try yesterday in US are on vacation, and it is possible that he might not be able to join. If he joins, it will be great so that we can discuss some. So let's start on discussing and seeing what we want to do with some of the things that I'm confused for. So one of the things that I see is that Jason added the activity type scene. Probably someone might have written something related to it, and Jason picked it from there in the information document. I don't know, or you might have found it somewhere. So so far we have discussed about this activity type. Should we just decide and remove it, or do you see any use of this activity type? Any thoughts?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little bit there. What's the question?
Yeah, so in all the statements that goes for video profile, we will have the activity type as video. Now Jason has added this activity type called scene, and I don't think we should have this, but before removing this, I would want to know you guys if there is any reason to keep this activity type.
I guess my concern would be a video could be made up of multiple scenes. So how would we know when a video moves from one scene to the next?
We are not tracking every scene. We'll be tracking when a video was paused and played or skipped from one place to another. So it will be dependent on the time where it was paused. So that will be tracked by using time to and time from for seed, and we'll have a time. Yes, I think we'll have to move this to result extension. So this time extension will be there for the point in time where the video was paused in the video or played. So that will be tracking which scene or which point in time it is.
I guess I don't understand the point of the scene at all then.
Yeah, me too. So we just, because I don't see where it came from, Jason might have found it somewhere. So because he's not there, we cannot get explanation from him. But at this moment, I don't want to have it.
The only thing I can think of for this scene is I think Popcorn.js allows you to do some navigation within the video, kind of like a choose your own adventure thing, which would kind of make sense for it to be a scene. I'm struggling with a little bit of unit of action in a video. I assume that means within the video, not a unit of action by the user. I still can't think of what an exact use case for this would be, but I guess, like I said, Popcorn.js sounds like something that might use scene. But my instinct would be to leave it off for now until we have a clearer picture of how this would get used and how we would relate scenes via statements.
So do you know what Popcorn.js uses this for?
I mean, as far as I know, there is no relationship between Popcorn.js and xAPI right now, last I saw, but I haven't used Popcorn in a long time. And again, I mean, what Popcorn would enable you to do is just kind of have like a choose your own adventure within the video. So in theory, the user could be making a choice by doing something to the video that would play a different scene based on what they did. I guess in a way, it's similar to having a quiz or something in the test or in the video that depending on your answer, a different video would play consecutively. Although in this particular case, I'm not sure why you just wouldn't mark it as another video, just a different video, because it's ultimately a different file most of the time. So, or in any example I can think of.
Yeah. So if it is in the same video, it could be just video. And
yeah, that's what I would think.
Video,
yeah. Yeah.
So for now, let's.
I mean, I guess the other thing you could do with scene is if you wanted to collect data around specific scenes that you have identified within your video to analyze for a specific reason. Like if in an educational intervention, you have a scene on teaching somebody how to put a catheter in, for example, then perhaps you want to look at the user's navigation scheme within that scene. Did they seek back and forth a lot or something? That still seems excessive to me. It would make sense to me to just use the timestamps for that and do a custom look at whatever you're trying to actually analyze. So anyways, I can come up with plenty of reasons why it might make sense to have scene, but I ultimately think we should just not have it. I don't see good enough reason to keep it.
Yeah, I guess my stance would be if more players had a concept, if more players had a congruent concept of a scene, then yeah, I would agree that it's a good idea to have. But just right now, Popcorn JS is the only one I know of that does. And actually, I didn't even know that. I found that out on this call. So I'm thinking I wouldn't necessarily want to say anything that would preclude using scenes in the future, because maybe it'll be something that catches on.
Yeah.
For right now, yeah, I don't see it being. I just don't see it as a thing.
Yeah. Another thing I can think of is that if scene has to be used, it it is dependent on the information inside the video, and for the script outside to be able to capture that information, it would either require manual input for each video or some kind of very advanced artificial intelligence. Otherwise, you'd not know when the scene is actually changing. And I would believe that scene is different from frame. So, scene change of scene we would not know unless it is either manually programmed inside the script or some advanced AI is used for that. So the use case would be limited to what someone might want to do manually, and unless there is any requirement for it, where it doesn't make sense for now. So next version or maybe two versions from now, be able to think about it further. Might be remove theme for now. Another thing that I can see that we have not discussed is the bookmark verb. Should we keep it to bookmark specific point in time, or
What was bookmarked for?
that is what I'm saying. We haven't discussed it. It was added by Jason, so I don't know what he thought when he added. Do you see a use for bookmark, like bookmarking a specific point in time in video?
I mean, I guess a student might do that. It seems more common to have markers on the timeline that have been added by not the person viewing, usually the person who publishes it, to jump around. But I suppose it's possible a student could bookmark a specific time code and go back to it. I don't know. It seems like a fringe case, but I guess I don't see a reason to remove it in this case.
I'm actually more confused about confusion over the term bookmarking than anything else.
Bookmarks, if you talk about history of bookmarks, it used to be used, or it is used in when you are reading book, and if you stop at certain point in time, you just put a bookmark. So if we go by that literal term, it could be a place where a user tries to but that we would have as terminated. If someone wants to if it is used in a different yeah, right.
What would be a use case where I would use bookmarked, but I wouldn't use paused or stopped?
Yeah, so that is what I'm saying. If you go by the historical meaning of bookmarked, it would be a place where you stop the video, so it would be paused, and after paused, it would be a terminated. So you terminate the video after that. But if you take it in how it is being used in different places on internet, it could be a point in time in video which is of your interest. So maybe it is a long 1 hour video and you want to be able to bookmark a specific point in time in video which has a specific information. So let's say if you are watching a video which talks about installation of different parts of auto accessories, and you want to know about when there is a way to install your tires, so you just bookmark that point in video which talks about installation of tires, and you know you can just click that bookmark and reach that point or something like that.
Is that clear for what bookmarked means? It's essentially just a link to a specific time code in a video. That's all it is.
But what's the I mean, if we want to track that somebody, like using YouTube as the example, if we want to track that somebody shared this video pointing to this moment, I mean, I guess, but that would fall under the verb share. That wouldn't fall under bookmarked.
Well, they may not share it. I mean, it's possible that they're keeping bookmarks just for their own self-regulation strategies for learning. They're just organizing places where they can go and study content again. I do think this is a fringe case. In my time teaching at a university, I have yet to see any students do this, but it's possible that somebody could.
So if we were to do that, then so now this also raises another question: do any of the players have that functionality? And more importantly, to what extent? Because even I agree with I mean I agree with you on both points. A, it's a fringe case, but B, yeah, I could see somebody is saying, you're watching a video and okay, the first 30 minutes or the first 30 seconds is, just filler. This is where you really want to be to learn what you need. Yeah, I can buy that. My question would be though, what data can we consistently expect to receive?
What kind of data? I didn't understand.
Well, what data, so let's say I'm on player X, be it YouTube, be it Popcorn, be it JW Player, be it J Player, whatever. I'm on whatever video player I'm on, and I bookmark 30 seconds, right? I bookmark at the 30-second part. Sandy, stop taking. What data can I expect to get from the player? Am I going to get the timestamp? Am I going to get an offset? Am I going to get? Can I expect any ability for notes? This is for any kind of notation for that bookmark. And where this really becomes important is like, okay, so I have the first bookmark at 30 seconds. I have the second bookmark at 1:30 seconds. Am I going to get 1:30 seconds, or am I going to get an offset from the first one of 60 seconds? You see what I mean? I don't know enough about the players.
Yeah, so what happens with YouTube, I have seen some links where you can add the time to where you want. That link will take you right at that point in time. So if it is a 1 hour video and you want to go at 6 minutes 20 seconds, you'll have a piece in the URL that will point to that time in that point in time. So if we use that URL for YouTube, we'll be going to that point in time. So currently we don't have an interface for bookmarking videos. At least I haven't seen. There might be some, but if we see how we are able to bookmark maybe URLs in our browsers, you'll be able to add the name and the folder where the bookmark is stored. So let's say if we talk about video, we'll be probably able to add a name for the bookmark and point to the time where it is bookmarked at. So it'll be the time in video, not from previous or second bookmark. It'll be the time in video, and that will be probably stored in the LRS where you can. If you're talking about analysis data, you'd probably be able to analyze which parts of videos are liked most or have more. If let's say a lot of people bookmark at specific points in time, you know that this point in time the video has some importance. There is something very important in that part of it. So we could probably be able to get more information about the videos, what parts are liked most, or what part has better info. And that same data could be used to show the user their bookmarks and those specific places again in future. So again, you see a value in having this. It could be a useful feature, but again, depending on your use cases and possible future requirements.
Yeah, I can see value in it. I think it's a fringe case, and I honestly, just about any use, with one exception, any use case I can think of for bookmark would actually be a share, where somebody's sharing it. So I don't, again, I wouldn't do anything to exclude this, but without knowing more about how the actual players do that demarcation, I don't know how we could include it effectively.
For YouTube, I know that you can just change the URL, and based on that, you'll be able to reach a specific point in time. For HTML5 based players, HTML5 based player, you could write your own URL reading and just change the time in video after the object is launched. So
well, that's absolutely patently not a true statement. I mean, that works with YouTube, but it's certainly not going to work with a page that has an embedded video.
If you have an embedded video, you can control the video using the JavaScript.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I'm actually pretty sure I don't. Actually, having worked with JW Player quite a lot, I mean, you can't just tack the time index on the end of the URL and it picks up at that spot.
It might not take like that. So you'll have to write a piece of JavaScript code. It might be just 1 line or 2 line of code. You'll have to read the URL, take the time, and then after the object is initiated, you have to just speak to that place in the video.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know that I see enough of a use case for this yet. And, you know, that may change over time, but for right now, I just don't think I see enough of a use case that, you know, because here, you know, here's the other problem is we're going to keep running across these fringe cases, and we're never going to get anything out. So, I mean, I think at some point we have to look at, you know, and I think that was Patrick that was talking before. The student example, I completely agree with that, but I think that is a fringe case. So maybe this is something where as we see trends form over the next year or so, maybe this is a version 2 thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, I'm not sure I wouldn't do anything to exclude it, but I'm not sure I would include it at this point.
Yeah, if it doesn't look like there is enough reason to include it, I would also support excluding it, and maybe if there are few requirements from 1 or 2 people, what we could do is we can add as additional document explaining what is a possible way to use this, because this bookmarked lot of video library defined in ADB. So we don't need to add it to our vocabulary, and we don't need to add it to our profile. We can have a separate document, make a sample statement which they could copy from. So there could be several different use cases which can be related to videos, which we could have as additional document that people could refer to as a possible solution, not as part of profile. What do you recommend? For example, having quizzes in between of videos, or tags, or comments, feedbacks. I've pointed them out as related statements. They could relate around videos, which we might not want to define exclusively inside the video profile, but point out how they could be.
So your thinking is like if I take a quiz and I have question number 4 was answered in this video at time index 30 seconds, how would we relate that in my quiz answer? Or I don't.
Yes,
I mean, well, here, let me short circuit that. In either case, I would remove this because I think it's outside the scope of this document.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. So all these things, comments, feedbacks, all these are outside the scope of this document. And at this moment, at least I'm not recommending that we should add it as part of this document. We could add separate documents as suggestions on what possible ways these could be handled. Which would not be part of the video profile, but just as a suggestion or an additional document. So we'll remove bookmarks from here.
Well,
Yeah, so there are a few verbs that are still not added. We'll have to add JSON and get these added. Go ahead, were you saying something?
very good. Um, you're kind of losing me a little here.
Yeah, were you saying something?
No, I thought you were I thought you were asking about something, and I was looking at the screen to see what you were looking
No.
at, and you moved. Oh, okay.
I was just looking at what we can do. So there are few verbs that are not added in the moment. I'll talk to Jason and maybe we can get it added. We'll get these two. If you get time, maybe you can review it and see if we can improve it or anything else. For the definitions, do we need to use the same definition that the original verb uses, or do you know if we should and can change?
I think the definite, well, I think it'll be very similar. I think contextually it will be different. So, for example, you know, I think you had your mouse over initialized a moment ago. I think initializing a page versus initializing an activity versus initializing a video, they all mean the same thing. They mean to load that thing, be it a course, a page, or an object on the page. I think it's in different context, though.
Okay. So based on the activity or activity type, we can change this activity to media or video or whatever our profile is related.
Yeah, because actually even there, you know, and again, we're just picking on initialize because that's just happened to be where your cursor was at the moment. You know, indicates the activity provider has determined that the actor successfully started the activity within the scope and context of that statement. The activity will be defined as the course, the page, or the object.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that marries just fine. I think that's okay.
Indicates the activity provider has determined that activity successfully started. Should we change this an activity at the end to started the media or the video?
Yeah, again, I mean, you know, we're talking about video, so media would be more directly relevant. But again, you're sending statements about the activity. In this case, the activity is the media. So I think one is a little more specific than the other, but I think they're both acceptable. I would think. I don't know.
So should I leave an activity? Yeah, fine. So for now I'll leave it as an activity, and maybe I'll check with Jason, and if required we can change it to PDF so that it's less confusing for people who doesn't understand very well, don't understand xAPI. One more thing that we had to change. I think we decided that time will be the result extension, right?
Say that again.
The time in video that we are tracking for pause and play. Whenever you pause the video or play the video, the time in video, that time will be part of result extension, not context extension. That's as I understand. That is what we decided.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I'll change this. One more thing that is the heat map.
Oh, the heat map.
I think we should have one, for one metadata for the heat map as well.
So has anybody actually created a heat map yet?
I don't think there was just a visual example that we had created.
There was a rumor that there was a couple groups that were working on it, but I've never seen anything.
I've tried and I failed. Well, no, even my failure wasn't spectacular. Even my failure was mediocre in that attempt. I couldn't even fail spectacularly in that. I've heard similar that, you know, there's been a couple of people working on it, but I haven't seen any product. The closest I've been able to find is a heat map that only works with very specific clients. Nothing that would be nothing open sourced, nothing, that we can map to this.
I didn't understand. Are you talking about creating the visual effects of heat map using the data.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I thought it should be very simple. There should be libraries for creating heat map.
Yeah, I mean there are some what is it, D3 I think is one, and there's another one that I can never remember. There are a couple of libraries for visualizing data available, but pulling the xAPI and formatting that data in the proper method or proper format, whatever,
Okay.
that has I have yet to see that successfully done.
Okay. So getting the data is the complicated part. You're saying.
Well, I think it's getting the data and reformatting it. I mean, getting the data is easy. It's just xAPI query. That's the easy part. It's being able to take that data, parse out what you need, and formatting it in a proper way. That's where things get ugly.
I think we had discussed how it should be formatted. So if we use that format, it will be pretty simple. So if we use what we discussed.
Well, it's getting it from the format we create in this documentation, and then getting from that to the format that the graphics package wants.
So this is on a screen. So this part is the string that we discussed will be formatted and stored. So do you mean from this string to the visual effect is complicated, or getting this string is complicated?
Oh, probably both.
Okay, so the visual part is dependent on availability of an existing heatmap library.
I actually think I missed the discussion where this string was discussed.
I think we discussed on Jan 5th, 11th meeting, or maybe before that.
I don't
Maybe no.
I don't remember.
So this is what we had thought. It will be probably this string will be part of an extension. So once you have this string, I don't think there'll be a lot of problem. Let me search for heatmap library.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to drop though. I'm actually getting called into a another meeting.
Okay.
So I think this looks familiar. I think I don't remember the mouse coolness in the background though. But yeah, it's just going to be pulling the data out and transferring it in a way that it makes sense to visualize is going to be a little bit tricky. So what is this? I can't see the URL. Is it just heatmap?
No, it is Patrick hyphen. Let me paste it in your chat.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
I'm pretty sure we'll be able to find some good heatmap library. And even creating one should not be very tough. This is a 3D kind of 2D kind of. We need just a linear heat map. So linear heat map.
Okay. All right. I'll see if I can take a look at this over the next couple of days. But I gotta go. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Okay. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Yep. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye. Okay. So heat map will be result extensions. Writing the description is a little complicated for this one. So we send it with paused. Yeah. So if we send this heat map for these two verbs, paused and seek, I think that should be enough. And any new paused or seek verb will append the current usage to this string. Patrick, are you there? Hello. Patrick, are you there?
Yes, I am. I can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm saying that if we add this heat map data requirement for these two verbs, paused and seeked, I feel this should be enough that every time a paused or seeked is sent, this data will be updated in that verb.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense.
So this heat map data will be for this attempt. Now, if there are multiple attempts, I guess, or what did we decide? I forgot. Will it be for this attempt or will it be for this user?
Right, probably just the most recent attempt would be stored, right, with that particular record, unless they relaunched it, in which case they get a whole new xAPI record.
Yeah.
So I think that's okay. That doesn't matter.
But if you want to suppose create a heat map for a specific user, like how he has viewed this video over time, will it be easy?
It wouldn't be. It would be separate attempts then, wouldn't it? So it'd be
Yeah,
separate records.
It'll be separate attempts, so it'll be separate
Yeah.
records.
Yeah.
So maybe we should also add to terminated and abandoned. Now, I'm suggesting adding these two because if let's say a user watched a specific video in 10 attempts, so he'll be having 10 heat maps. And if you want to see his overall how much he has watched, you'll be able to pull from these terminated and abandoned.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good.
But this has confused me further. Now, what will happen to the completed verb? So when is the completed verb sent? Completed, by completed we mean that 100% of video is consumed.
I remember we talked a lot about what was completed or not completed.
Yeah, but I'm again confused. Do you remember? Like I'm thinking what happens if a user, let's say, starts a video and then takes a part of the video and then goes off. Tomorrow it comes back and takes the remaining. Now, will the video get completed? Should it get completed?
I don't remember where we left off on that particular issue, other than to say that we know that if they didn't, we just knew that if they closed it and abandoned it or stopped it, that they were maybe not complete. That it was either terminated or abandoned.
But what should happen? Like what do we need?
I think I don't know, it's been a while now, but what we had talked about at one point was that it would just send that statement depending on the activity.
Based on what I remember, we had discussed that completed should only be sent when a user has watched the entire video, even if he has watched in different order. But
Right.
I don't know if we discussed if it should send completed if it is over multiple attempts or not. So
I think the same. I think what we had talked about the same thing there. If it's a multiple attempt, then maybe that record. If maybe you're complete on this attempt, but you won't be complete on the next attempt, and I think that's okay. But I think you're talking about multiple attempts within the same launch, right?
no. Once you launch, it says sends an initialized verb. Now, verb is this attempt. So as soon as an initialized verb is sent, there'll be a statement ID for initialized verb, and that same statement ID will be the session ID for the entire session. Now, for this video session, we'll have all the statements sent along with this session ID, which is the statement ID of initialized verb. So during this session or during this attempt, if you seek two different places in the videos, if you move the pointer to different points in the time, it will be recorded as the same attempt or the same session, as long as it is not terminated. So that is one session. Now, in one session, let's say a user watches 60% of video. Now, you'll be able to see that using the heat map information. But let's say he comes in another session and he watches the remaining 40%. Practically saying he has consumed 100% video. Now, should a completed statement be sent?
Yeah, so I think it's like you just said, with the term, unless it's terminated, it's going to be complete, right? As part of that session.
Yeah, so if in the same session he watches everything, it is good and okay. But if he terminates that session, if he leaves it for today and he comes back tomorrow, so tomorrow he launches the video again, and there will be a new initialized statement and new attempt. So in this new attempt, he consumes the remaining 40%. Now, after consuming the remaining 40%, ideally you see that this user has completed the entire video. But how do we handle this situation? I feel like going back 10 steps.
I mean, the way you just described it really makes sense to me. I mean, and I think that's how most LMSs handle it as well.
So should it send a completed statement?
I think so, yeah. Because I would want the student, in this case, I would definitely want the student to be complete.
So should we depend it on maybe the
Depended on what? You broke up a little bit.
there's something called a registration API spec. So there is a registration parameter in the spec. Some authoring tools are using this parameter to define if it is a new what you would call it. Registration.
I'm not really clear. Which parameter were you talking about in the authoring tool?
the registration thing in the xAPI spec. So the registration that the statement is associated with doesn't explain much. Are you able to see in the screen registration?
Let me look.
So there is a
Yeah,
context registration parameter in the xAPI spec.
Oh, I
In
see.
in the statement, you are able to send a registration property. It is a UUID type, and what some of the authoring tools are doing is using this registration ID. They determine if it is a completely new what you call
Attempt.
or session or whatever. So let's say
Yeah.
launch the activity multiple times, they would record everything under this registration and use the same previous information. So let's say if you launch an articulate content, you go and answer 5 questions, and there are total 20 questions. You answer 5 questions and you leave the activity there. Tomorrow, if you launch the activity, it will ask if we should go back to the where you left. So it will ask you if you should go back to where you left, and if you say yes, I want to go back to where I left, it will go to this 5th or 6th question where you should be. So this happens as long as registration ID is same, and you can pass the registration ID in the URL when launching the content.
Yeah. So I guess it makes me think of one thing, right? The xAPI statement that was sent in the first attempt that's immutable, right? So we would have to create a new xAPI record for that person, even if the user ID, the UUID here was the same as the previous attempt. So now you have 2 records, 2 xAPI records, right? Well,
2 records.
I don't. Well, for say you trying to remember what I was going to say here now. What I was thinking was if you have the first attempt and you took it and say you didn't complete it, you abandoned it.
Yeah.
And you relaunched the content. The course says, would you like to resume your session from before? You say yes. Then it passes the same user ID or the registration ID here back to the LRS, but we can't change the original xAPI statement. So now we're going to have 2 statements, right? One with the first attempt is being abandoned, and then maybe they completed on the second one.
Yeah.
This user, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea is that the user completed the course or activity or completed the video in multiple attempts for this registration. So every statement in every attempt will have the same registration ID, which is passed by the element.
Right.
That is what happens with the existing authoring tools. At least I know about articulate it happens.
Yeah.
So one option we have is to use the registration and say that as long as registration ID is same, all the bitmap data will be 1 and the completed statement will be sent as long as the user has consumed that video in that registration.
Okay. Yep. This ID is optional though, so.
What is optional?
The registration ID is optional.
Yeah, in xAPI spec, it is optional. So if we are using this, we'll need to make it mandatory.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking that if we're going to rely on it, then if it's not there, that could be bad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have to drop, Pankey. Thanks so much for the session today.
Okay, great. Have a good day. Bye.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Okay, so we'll end the session today, and let's meet next month on 2nd of August.